This week, a lot of people are celebrating or acknowledging.
selling.
That wasn't necessary slip, and it wasn't Freudian, right? It was a Fanon slip. I'll call it a Fanon slip, right?
If you want to see good news, you don't see on regular TV. From another perspective, something relative to your needs. And we gonna have deep subjects, and we gonna turn the lens. And there's no topic we won't skip. So please don't miss weekly, Tune in weekly to check in. Weekly check.
Greetings wherever you are in the universe. My name is Kaya Shivers. Welcome to Arc Republic Weekly Check-In. Today we are introducing a new person that we are going to chop it up with on a regular basis about current affairs issues that matter to Arc Republic. Welcome, Brother Afrika. How are you?
Outstanding. All power to the people.
All right. I'm glad you said that. Now, Afrika has been on Arc Republic before. He is a historian, sociologist, and activist, and he is the host of All Power to the People podcast that you can find on YouTube. How you feeling today?
Outstanding. I'm good. Hey, look, I got the mask on because my better half is testing positive for COVID. So we got to quarantine and have the mask on. So I'm trying not to get bullied. So I got my mask on.
Well, thank you so much. It is very real. It is, Omarion has taken out after the United States. It is absolutely no joke. I'm recovering myself, my husband and I. So if you hear me cough, I'm about to cough now. Excuse me. That is me getting over it. It's very real. So I'm glad you're taking whatever measure you need in order to stay healthy.
Gotcha.
Because that is the true wealth. All right, let's get into it. So Brother Afrika lives and does his work in Newark, New Jersey, where Arc Republic is headquartered. Newark has emerged in the spotlight for multiple reasons, but I wanted to get more into kind of like the political bones of Newark and the activist bones of Newark. So can you please tell us what does that look like today in the city?
Newark is a colony. It's just how Stokely Carmichael will characterize it. It's how Malcolm, it's how any of our ancestors will characterize any inner city in America. There we have no power. The people in the community have no power. We have people in position of power that work for the system that's oppressing us, but by and large, it's the same. 90% of the jobs from people that live outside of the community, there's really that the tax base, the income is really not circulating in the community. The community members have no power in the schools, in their government. It's a colony controlled by others outside of Newark. And we're just here trying to survive.
Right, so that I was gonna ask, well, by definition, a colony is this idea of where you have a land or a location in another area that is being controlled by a power that be or an authority somewhere else that extracts the natural resources and the capital out of this area, at the same time keeping it in control. Colonies were kept in control historically through military force or physical force. So could you explain, are you talking about colony metaphorically, or are you actually talking about there is actually a regime, and who is that regime, or what is that regime?
We're in the United States, we're in America. In America, they have institutions that control the society. I'm a sociologist by trade, so I view my reality through a sociological perspective. So the way you control human beings is through institutions. What are institutions? Institutions are things like schools, things like, let's say the political system, the government. These are all institutions that are in the community to control how people move. Like right now, there's a mandate in Newark that you cannot go into stores, go to businesses if you don't have the vaccine. that is that's institutional control of the people that live in that space. We don't have the power to fight back against those mandates because the institutions that enforce these rules are outside of our power limit, our capabilities. So when we say we're in a colony, everything from our schools to the police to everything that happened in our community is being dictated by outside forces, economic forces that don't live in this community, that never even visit this community. But they have politicians, because in every community you have a mayor, councilman, you have all these different levels of bureaucracy that manages that space. The people that are in that space are funded by the corporations, the oligarchs, the people that don't live in this community. So they have the power. We have no power as individuals here. And we scratch, claw, and we try to fight. But at the end of the day, just like with our school system was privatized. It was changed to charter schools. Yo, we fought. The community came out in thousands. Yo, they used to lock their doors and leave us outside in the cold. There'd be thousands of citizens, parents, families outside in the cold couldn't go in and demand our public school be treated the way we wanted them. So they did what they wanted to do. The superintendent, the mayor, all these people, like they did exactly what their funders wanted them to do. So now it's charter schools all in our community. And when you tell people like you have no agency, they tell you to vote. They tell you to go into these institutions to try to change it. But in a colony, the definition of a colony is the power does not reside with the people. The power resides outside of the space. So now private individuals own our schools. They educate our children. They tell our kids what they need to learn, what need to be in the curriculum, and we have no power to do anything about it.
So, all right.
Often, it's a lot.
Yeah, no. It's all good. It's all good. No, I am enjoying the conversation. There's, I'm very open. I came through, my father became very politicized at Southern University in the 1970s. And so several years later, I was born. I've had many of these conversations growing up. The question that I have, and you talking about the colony, still name the thing. What is the thing? Who are these people that are in control specifically? Mm-hmm. Do you have that? Or is there this mask? Because that's part of I think maybe the criticism with people who talk about the powers that be. Mm. Who or what are the powers that be? How do we identify them? How do we get to them?
Got you. Who fund, like the structure in our city is not ran by Republicans. There are no right wings. So who's in the power dynamics? So you would say the Democratic Party. Who funds the Democratic Party? Who has all these jobs in the community? Like there's an Amazon here. There's a Home Depot here. There are different businesses that are in the community that you can't unionize. They will not allow you to unionize. Those are the people that fund the politicians, that control the colony that we are in. So if you say, who are the people? Where's the money coming from? Who controls the money? Where's the money at? Wherever the money is coming from, whoever has the money, that is where the power lies at. And everybody else is just a black face or a brown face or whatever working in this space to carry out their mandate.
No, this is a very interesting how you put this forward, because if you look at how cities are right now, and even like cities that have sports teams connected to them, you will always have this like major corporation that exists in the city, right? Usually it's whatever the name of the arena is, or Wells Fargo Arena or whatever. In Newark, you have the Prudential Center, which is a major insurance company, not just in Newark or in the area, but throughout the world, right? And I would really be interested. I don't know if you've done the work to see if the Prudential Center in any way, shape, and form is maybe connected to Lloyd's of London, right? The insurance carrier who's connected to the slave trade, because what came out some years ago, Wachovia, which is no longer in existence in Washington Mutual, and these banking institutions had direct connections to the slave trade. So what we see is a lot of the corporations that you're talking about, like these major institutions, have their roots in the trade of Black bodies, and also in the perhaps providing supplies or whatever it is in the takeover of countries or peoples and nations. So this will be really kind of interesting. I think this is so important for like the younger folk to understand what it is, right?
Yes.
So Newark's mayor is Ras J. Baraka, who's the son of Black Power, Black Arts Movement leader Amiri Baraka. Before Raz was mayor, there was Cory Booker. These two individuals are highlighted in establishment politics as being stalwarts, right? As being people who have brought Newark through a lot of this economic detriment. In particular, Raz Baraka, because of his roots, are still very heavily connected to what we would call maybe like the Black Power intelligentsia. You want, excuse me. So how can it be that you have a mayor like Raz Baraka, who, comes out the womb, in this family and in these organizations, and has done a lot of organizing himself in a city where a lot of the underrepresented, the Black folk, the brown folk, the poor folk are still very vulnerable, and as you're saying, getting, run ramshot over in terms of these corporations.
Let me see how to explain this. As a sociologist, how we're scientists, you got the information, and then when you get the information, you do the investigation and try to make sure that the information that you have support whatever thesis or hypothesis that you have. I read a lot. I study people from the past. Frantz Fanon was a psychologist, and Frantz Fanon said, entering institutions of white supremacy or the government to try to change it is a dead end. There's nothing you can do within that system to reform it or to fix it, to aid the wretched of the poor. Because that's what he was talking about in the book, The Wretched of the Poor. Raz Baraka can believe whatever you want to believe, his father, whatever they could believe, whatever they want to believe. But once you enter institutions of white supremacy, you have to function how those institutions function. You have to do what those institutions are erected to do. So when you go in those institutions, you work for them. I don't care how nice of a person you may think you are, you may want to be, or how well-read you may want to be. You work for those institutions. So like right now, man, it's poverty outside. When I look out my window, people are starving. When I go downstairs, it's people downstairs, an open air market for selling drugs. People are trying to survive out here. The average income in the city of Newark is about $22,000. $22,000. You cannot afford to live anywhere and survive as a human being in a socioeconomic society, making $22,000 a year. It's impossible because the rent of one bedroom is about $800-900. Two bedrooms.
One bedroom is like 12 to 1,500.
Hey, yeah, 12 to 1,500 for one bedroom. This is in Newark, New Jersey, where people are making $22,000 a year. So you tell me you put a Raz Baraka or anybody, Nelson Mandela, you put them into these institutions, they're not going to do nothing for those people that are making $22,000. Even if they think they are, even if they believe in their heart that they're going in there to do it, the institutions will not allow you because you follow the mandates of the oligarchs who control you. Prudential, Amazon, whatever, whoever's funding your campaign, that's who you work towards. And I gotta speak to Raz to understand how he views himself. But participating in white supremacy, in institutions of white supremacy, that is not Black power. That has nothing to do with Black power.
Well,
I mean,
if you are in a colony, right? If
Mhm.
you are in a colony and if you are in this system, right, that we're talking about, how do you not engage? How do you not engage? How do you do things that are more towards your freedom?
You organize. Organize, organize, organize. Once again, that's Kwame Ture. Organize, organize, organize. What do you mean by organize? You see, because this is what activists don't usually explain. Your organizing is 90% meetings. Meetings, meetings, meetings. What do I mean by that? If you want to fix something in your community, the people that live in those communities must come together and have meetings to come up with strategic ways they're going to change their material condition, their reality. If you don't organize, have those meetings, you will never do that. The activists out here that are paid by corporations to go out here and say we're fighting for people, they tell the people to vote. They tell them, go vote for the next councilman, next mayor, next president, next senator. Go vote for people in these institutions, and they will bring policies that will aid, that will help you. You see, they don't tell them to have meetings. They don't tell them to organize. Because once you organize, let's say I live on First Street. If everybody where I live at, if we decided to come together and have meetings and organize to take over our community, we could all put $3,000-4,000 down and start buying our communities together. We become the stock members. We become the owners of the property. You don't have to put up 10, 20, 30, 40,000. You could put in 2,000, 3,000. And once these individuals, these people own the stuff in their community, have stock in it, they're not going to allow anybody to come in there and take it. Nobody's going to come in there. And I know people that play fantasy football. For $500, they will be calling my phone every week, making sure everything is correct, everything is fixed. Like, they will complain all day long. Imagine if they had thousands of dollars invested in their community. And people have jobs here. Remember, the average person makes $22,000 because you can't survive in a socioeconomic system without capital. So if those people were organized to own the communities which they live in, not somebody else parachuting in, building something and calling it their Black business and that we should go support their business, but those individuals in those said communities are benefiting from all the structures in their community, our society would transform. But we don't own nothing. The people out here, everybody's mostly renters. The people that do own, like their own houses, like usually work for City Hall. They work for somewhere, and they're not willing to struggle with the masses. So, like, if you want to fix these communities, you want to fix our society, you can't tell them to enter institutions of white supremacy. You must organize them to own the land, the structure which they are part of, which the air that they breathe. They must own it. That's the only way. That's what revolutions are about. When somebody, like I was telling you, I don't know what Ras would say if I asked him if he was about Black power, whatever, or revolutionary, if he would consider himself a revolutionary, because revolutions mean changing the status quo. And once you're part of the system, the institutions, you're not changing the status quo. You're maintaining the status quo. So if we want to change how our communities function, we must organize our people to own it, because we can do that. And that's what I'm in the midst of doing right now with my own life, organizing people in these communities to own their communities. Once we do that, then we can fight back.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting because I think there needs to be a revisitation, if that's a word, about what does it mean to own your community? Because owning community does not mean just owning the physical property itself, which is what I think a lot of people lean heavily on, because as we know, there have been many communities throughout this history that have been owned, that have been totally been neutralized, bombed, people ran out, so on and so forth. So I'm really interested to see what that looks like now, because part of it is you have to constantly redefine theories and strategy and understandings, because what Kwame Ture was saying in the 60s and the 70s, that looks different now.
Today.
You know what I'm saying, in 2022. And that's part of, in my opinion, part of my criticism is that we often use strategies that are relevant, but they're applied in irrelevant, antiquated ways, you know. And part of that problem is, and I've said this multiple times, is that there is, for some reason, this disallowance of younger, fresher, more energetic, innovative minds and people to come through and lead. You know, when you still have people who are 70, 80, 90 years old that are in Congress or that are in organizations and everything like that, that are there just because that is their own maybe sense of power that exists. It's like, at this point, why did you do it in the first place? You just wanted to be the emperor on the throne. So that would be very interesting.
I want to go back. I want to go back to what you said. That's part of educating oneself. You learn what they did in the past. And then after 40, 50 years of surviving in the space of seeing what happened after they died, you're supposed to take the information that you have now and put it together with the information they had then. Yo, Malcolm was talking about going to get land. I forgot where he wanted to go get land, but they thought like you could buy land or whatever. Or when these people come in, like you say, Black Wall Street, and they own these places. Yo, the majority of the people that lived there didn't own anything. There was a bougie of what's the word? A bourgeoisie class that always owns. Like when this Black activists or Black people coming out in the communities and they say they're coming to help the people, liberate the people. Yo, they come in to buy businesses and they call those businesses Black businesses. Yo, that's not what I'm talking about. We in a different space. Those people that live in those communities, wherever you're at, they need to own the things in those communities. Because then when Black Wall Street come, when you come in there, you got to bomb everybody. You got to kill you can't leave nobody alive. There will be nothing there. You can't just target a few people, kill them, and everything is lost. No, the people in the community, the people have never gotten power. The masses of people in any said revolution have never gotten power because they have never controlled the means of production after any war, after any revolution. The only way they're going to be able to control anything is if they have power over the stuff that's in their communities. So after 50 years, we can run to Oklahoma to go buy land in Oklahoma. You live in Kentucky, you live in San Diego, you live in Las Vegas, you live in New York, you live in North, wherever you're at, that is where your revolution start at. You don't run to the suburbs. You don't run anywhere else to go find refuge. You organize the people in that space to be able to take over those spaces. And that's how institutions function. Without people, without the masses, all these institutions are worthless. They're nothing. Because if you remove the people from them, they're just buildings, they're just statues, they're just words. So the people that are there must be organized to take over their own communities. And that's the only way that I see any liberation coming. But going to church, voting, praying, all these things will not bring about what you want because we live in a world that's determined through socioeconomics. So you could talk all that stuff you want to talk about, but if you don't control the space that you're living in, you're just talking. Or if the people don't control that space, we're just talking.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Arc Republic. If you like what you see and you like what you hear, you can actually keep this mothership going. How? You can make a tax-deductible donation in several ways. One, Cash App us at Arc Republic Media. And you can also go on our website, arcrepublic.com/donate. As well, you can also donate to our fiscal sponsor and our sister organization at Black Farmers Index, that is Cash App, or also go onto their website, blackfarmersindex.com. We are two Black women-owned media organizations who share our profits so folk can thrive.
Brother Africa, I think this is an excellent segue. Thank you for your point. I appreciate this. This is an excellent segue. This week, a lot of people are celebrating or acknowledging.
Selling.
That wasn't
You're
necessary slip, and it wasn't Freudian, right? It was a Fanon slip. I'll call it a Fanon slip, right? I really like Fanon. I think often in these movements, people underestimate the psychological understandings of things, and he added such a needed lens in terms of it, right? But my Fanon slip, selling Martin Luther King. His birthday was on the 16th, I believe, but his birthday recent. This is the national holiday, a Monday, to celebrate MLK, who was assassinated after years of participating in the most foremost civil rights movement in the United States. There were many civil rights movements throughout the United States, but this is the one that is heavily recognized. And he's assassinated when he started digging his heels into the Poor People's Campaign that he started, which is a campaign that really did a hard, let's say, right or left turn from a lot of the activism and the movement work he was doing prior to. But being that we're talking about Newark, King came to Newark during his Poor People's Campaign. And the Poor People's part of the Poor People's Campaign was him traveling around the United States to activate the most underrepresented people in the country as he began to assess the levels of poverty that he saw. Now, you know, King, even though they said he lived a very modest life, he was amongst the bourgeoisie. So he still had these trappings of comfort. So when he saw poor people in Chicago and Tennessee and DC, it jarred him, you know, which then, you know, acts or gets him to enact this Poor People's Campaign, where we also know he begins to talk to MLK. He begins to talk to now, Stokely Carmichael, who's now Kwame Ture, or I don't know if he made the name change yet.
No, he made, back then, I don't think
he had made, he was Stokely Carmichael, but Stokely Carmichael has already put out this idea of Black Power, because Stokely Carmichael went down to Alabama to help, you know, these farmers vote. So there's this shift. What do you know about MLK coming to Newark or its significance?
Oh, as a kid growing up in Newark, I didn't even know he came to Newark. I found out about MLK when I was in prison, and I started reading. That's when I found out he came to Newark. See, because the institutions, the schools that I went to, didn't educate me and teach me anything about that. There was nothing here to keep that legacy of when he came, telling the people in these communities exactly what I just said. Because most of the time when I speak, it seems like I'm using my own words. But the stuff that I'm saying that is coming from my mind is things I read from people like Dr. King. At the end of his life, the bourgeoisie, those elements, they turned their backs on him.
That's right.
They stopped talking to him. Everybody left him. He was on his own. But that's when he started fighting for the people and calling America the three prongs of evil, whatever, whatever, all the things he was saying about America that was true. The Black bourgeoisie left him alone and left him out there to die. They didn't care about him. So it's like now, when I look back on him after reading, studying, and seeing everything he did, one of the last things he said was, I fear I'm bringing my people into a burning building. I'm talking about the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. Like, this was one of the last things he said to, I think, Harry Belafonte. That's what Harry Belafonte said. Like, he feared that by getting people to believe in voting and all these ideas, like he's bringing them into a burning building. And now his whole legacy has been transformed to only speak about those moments where he pushed for voting, when he pushed for things of those sort, because those that work in the institutions now, that are erected now, need to keep him saying that stuff. They don't bring up the real Martin Luther King, the Martin Luther King that stood with the people. When they're gonna have their little tributes and stuff, They're not going to bring that up. They're not going to talk about how he said we have to organize these people. We have, because that's what made Dr. King. That's what made people like him, like Malcolm, like they went into the communities and they organized the people. I don't know if I could say that enough to get people to sit down to think about their world, what is going on around them, and to get them to understand that they can transform that world. Yo, you can't do that by watching versus battles. You can't do that by you can't do that doing none of that goofy stuff. You have to be able to Malcolm used to have meetings on a weekly, like probably like 3-4 times a week, where he was preaching to people, getting them to understand how to transform their lives. See, that's what activism is. Activism is not money. It's not being famous, being rich, like being able to get on white people platforms and all. That's not what activism is. Activism is the work of people coming together to find out how they can change their reality. And right now, when they talk about Dr. King, when they talk about Martin, even his kids, that's one thing, man. I'm about to say something that's gonna hurt people's feelings. I don't know how all these great people always have this piece of shit kids. Their kids don't be worth shit. Yo, I don't even know his son's name, the fat one. He was
Martin
talking about
King the third.
he talking about something we should boycott if they don't give it to John Lewis voting bills. Like, what are you, retarded? I can't even say retarded. What's the other word I could use?
I say that.
Yeah, you can't say that, huh? Mentally challenged. These people got to be mentally challenged. No, because like, how has it been 50, 60 years and you're still talking about access to voting in institutions that don't care about you?
Right.
Like,
I mean, and if you are in the Atlanta area, it's not a secret that the children that are still living, particularly with MLK, are at odds with each other, as well. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, but that's part of, I would say that's part and parcel of these systems in place to ensure that the fruit does fall far from the tree, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
And when it does it, I mean, look at Fred Hampton Jr., look at Malcolm X's grandson, and all these, so you raised some good points though. You raised some good points. What I do know, because I'm still looking at it, what I do know is that when King came to Newark, everybody closed their doors except for, I think it was like Mount Calvary Baptist Church. But all of the preachers, the Black political class, the little piece that was there at the time, did not want him to come because they felt he was a troublemaker. Exactly. He disrupted the little pieces of change and power that they thought they had. And that was one of the things that King struggled with, is that all of these people 3 or 4 years prior to, embraced him. But when he made this switch, then he becomes enemy number one. And at the time of his death, because he visits not, shortly thereafter, he's assassinated, but at the time of his death, just like Malcolm X, is that a lot of people were not feeling King, at all.
Yeah, but it's really not the masses though. It's the people in position of power, the people that work for the institutions of white supremacy. Like, they're the same ones that are going to be celebrating them now. Wherever you go and they're celebrating them now, it's the people that went and stood with him on his last days. Because these people, by and large, most of them get a check from the government right now. If wherever you see them talking about Martin Luther King, you check their bank account and they're getting money from the government somewhere. And they're not going to be saying what he died saying, what got him killed, what got Malcolm killed. They're not going to be saying none of that stuff. They just say all the little quotes that they think that is palatable, that white supremacy would allow. But and they use them. They use our ancestors to cloak themselves in the purity of our liberation. Because we all know we're not free. I don't care where you at in America. I want to see that Black person that stand in front of me and say, like, as Black people, we are free in America. But this is what he was saying. This is what they were saying. They wasn't saying nothing harmful. They didn't preach hate. They were saying we are not free. And if we want to be free, we must organize ourselves against militarism, against capitalism. How is that something bad? But those that are getting paid by the institutions, they will turn their back on them. They'll do it now. Yo, if Malcolm was alive today, they may call him an anti-vaxxer. They don't call him a terrorist. Obama, if Malcolm was alive now and Obama was president, he will have Obama in Guantanamo Bay. He will have him locked up because he works for the institutions of white supremacy. But our people have been conditioned to believe the Obamas of the world are working towards our liberation. But that's what you do when you build institutions to control people. All our kids, every single child we have, my children, they all went to these schools. They all listen to this media, this propaganda. So, and that's where we are at now. Our revolution must start with us building our own institutions. We must, not just the land, not just the physical building. We got to take control of our own schools. We got to make our own schools.
I really would like to see what that looks like. That is something that has been said for, I don't know, God, how many generations and years. I would really like to know what that looks like.
It take organizing.
I mean, I've seen people attempt to do it and it from the inside implodes. I've seen spiritual institutions, educational institutions, financial institutions, or attempt to establish them as institutions, and they've all crumbled. So
Yeah.
I'm really interested, you know, what that looks like. Like I said, the things you're saying, they've been said, you know, for many decades. What does that look like?
And we haven't tried it yet, right? We have like our societies, we have never had an all black, organization. The organization from coast to coast deals with black people and has black people invested in it and they're gaining from it. We have everybody do your own shit. I don't understand. Nowhere in life, everybody can have their own thing, do their own thing. Like even in sports, if we playing on a football team or basketball team, I'm playing man, you playing zone, the other player, it would never work. But till now, all my studying, I have never seen the organizers, the people with power, the people in position of power, organizing all our people towards one goal. When they organize us to vote. That's the only thing that you hear the entertainers, you hear the politicians, you hear the rappers, you hear everybody, the athletes, they tell our people, they get on TV, vote, vote, vote. But none of these people with the resources to do so, organize our people into owning their own communities and building their own schools in their communities. And I'm not, because somebody probably out there thinking LeBron James built the school. That school is a white school. It's a white school in blackface. LeBron James built another white school in America. That's all it is. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about schools centered around blackness to teach our children how to survive in the real America. And all of this stuff is organized by people with the resources and the power to do so. I mean, and since they don't want to do it, that's why I said it has to go back to us. We must organize our own communities to do it for themselves. And that's where the hard part is. But the solution is there. It's hard to do it because I don't have no money. I can't walk outside right now and organize it and start putting up schools, erecting schools by myself. First of all, somebody gonna look at me like, who the fuck are you? Who are you? Like, how I know what you're saying is true? Obama told me something else. Lil Wayne on what's his name, Yeezy. Kanye West said, we still want to be slaves. So like, who are you to come tell me anything? But if somebody in Obama's platform was like, yo, this is what we need to do. This is the mandate. This is what we got to do. Man, black people will jump on it. They'll start jumping on it because they believe in that, in those kind of people. But I could preach. I could use my own money to create nonprofits, do all this stuff in the community. It's really nothing because it's like a tree falling in the woods. Nobody hears it.
I when I hear you talking, I begin to think about Saturday schools. My dentist is Indian. She was born in Africa, born in like Tanzania, but she's of Indian descent. And she always, when we talk, we would talk about, Africa and everything. And excuse me.
That COVID, baby, got that COVID.
That vid. You gotta say, I just learned, I spoke to somebody and social media and stuff. And when you say when you are not a government entity and you say certain words on social media across the board, your stuff gets what they call shadow ban, which is that you just basically get taken out. So, you know, we even have to be, you know, creative about what that looks like. I got to come up with the words and some terms. But what my dentist said, says every time we go, she always talks about the Saturday schools that her children are involved in. The Saturday schools are schools where they learn about their culture. They learn about not just culture. It's not just singing and dancing, even though that's part of it, but they learn about spirituality. They learn about civics. They learn about government. And I think when you say organize, and organizing is nothing but meetings, this is like Saturday school, because part of that's not the only community that does it. The Jewish community does it. You know, it's mandated. It's not what, you know what I mean? You've got to go to these, because the understanding is that this mainstream culture, whatever it is that exists in, will never give you what it is you need to be whole, to act whole, to understand what it means to be Jewish or Indian or Black or African. You must have supplementary education in order to be that. And in that supplementary education, when you become an adult, you'll understand how to move where you don't have to say anything. And I think that's one of our issues is that we don't understand that organizing simply is deprogramming or reprogramming or talking through and talking about what it means to be who we are and exist in this at the same time, you know, challenge and fight and so on and so forth. So I think even if we represent it, and also know that it's not just for children, it's for everybody, and everybody plays a part, and what that part looks like. Because I think Black people in America have always, our backs have been always against the wall, and we always are so public about advocating, and there's a reason for that, you know. I think like the things that we want to change and how we go about changing them get so politicized that it can turn people off, or people have a wrong understanding or idea what it is, or even people who are starting it and building it. Does that make sense?
It makes a whole lot of sense. Now, it makes a whole lot of sense. No, because the people that you're trying to talk to are people that are being conditioned by the matrix. I'm gonna use that term, the matrix. Right. Like, try to think about it for a minute. Everybody outside that's an American that grew up here went through all the institutions of America. So the people that they become, this is what Fanas said, we have no choice but to be white men, because all our learning, everything that we know come from their institutions. So it's gonna produce the people that they desire. No, it's like, in short, that's what you're saying. And if you want to see another way, we have to have these meetings, organize our people to show them the other way. See, but that takes resources. And that's why Du Bois said that the best in our group, the best of us, have to create these things for the rest of us. You see, when they talk about Du Bois, they always get that construed. Like he's talking about, they got to be the elite, whatever. He's saying those of us that have the resources, because everybody don't have the resources. It's like 10% of us that can afford it. To have the meet, like to have a meeting, to rent a spot for people to go to in the community, all that thing takes money. It takes time. If you don't have the money in the capital, you can't do it. And when our elites leave us to ourselves, to organize ourselves, you will have the social ills that you have outside, because those people are not in position to do so. So like you said, the Indian lady is saying, other cultures have been doing that forever. The term ghetto came from Jews that refused to accept white people or Christianity. They said, we're going to pay to live in these ghettos to be able to teach our own kids, to make sure we socialize our kids. We don't do that. Every single politician you hear, the first thing they say is, we're going to do early start. As quick as they can, they snatch your baby from you and they put them in their institution and they start grooming that baby. And now you have to fight for rights to take over control of your own baby. It's backwards, but it's like, I don't blame the people. I don't blame the masses. I blame the people in position of power. That's what John Henry Clark said that. John Henry Clark said the people that betrayed our revolution are the people in position of power to affect change. And they affect change for white supremacy. So if we want to change our condition, we have to do it ourselves. When we talk about Prudential and all these people, I don't see the owner of Prudential. I don't see Prudential. You know who I see? I see the lackeys that they pay, the black faces that they pay to be their gatekeepers. These are the people that I see on a daily basis. So I can't even get the Prudential. I can't get the Amazon, Jeff Bezos, unless I deal with the Spanish people, the black people that they got working for them right here in my face. I mean, and those people are not organizing us towards liberation. They're not having Saturday schools. They're not doing none of that stuff.
No, these are really good points. I'm glad you also brought up Du Bois, who also is
Talented 10th. That's what they call it.
Yeah, the talented 10th, but who also, you aptly pointed out, is very misunderstood, and is so trapped in this binary of Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, and Du Bois being the sellout. And if we listen more to, Booker T. Washington was very vicious. A lot of people don't know that. He was very vicious in maintaining his power. He took out a lot of people in order to be, the right hand, of the president at the time.
Well, exactly. No, but the right hand of who? The president. Look who's funding them. All this stuff is not new. They funded him to open all this Tuskegee and to tell black people, you don't need to go to school. All you need to do is to learn how to do this practical work, to farm, to be able to sustain yourself. But everybody that worked in his institution had college degrees. Du Bois said the same thing. Du Bois said he asked me to come work at his school. He didn't go. He asked me to come work at his school. But why would you want all these intellectuals to work at your Tuskegee, whatever, but you don't believe the masses of the people needed this education because you're being funded by somebody that's telling you what they need to be.
And see, what Booker T. Washington, as I understand it, it wasn't, for me, the problem wasn't the fact that he promoted farming and what they call vocational education. The problem for me is that it was to be of service to white people.
Yes.
That was the problem.
Yes.
Now, if you took all of those skills, if you took skills how to build a house and buildings and eat and all those things like that, and you apply it directly into your community and talk about nation building, that's one thing. But if you're promoting, you do this in order to take this across town or whatever it is, and you keep the white people happy so the money could keep coming in, so we get that. And then another thing is that, Tuskegee was one of the first institutions. The funny thing is that Tuskegee promoted or recruited elite people around the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He went to even the Philippines and Africa and the Caribbean. Tuskegee was actually the first, what we call historically black college, that has this international representation, but they were all elite, students. So, I mean, so I'm so glad you brought that up about Du Bois. I often think that his work it's like King. Everybody talks about the souls of black folks and this dude is mad profound, nobody really talks about when he said, bump it, I'm going to Africa, and what that looks like.
And there's growth. There is growth in all of us. What I knew at 18, 19, 20, 21, 20, in my 20s, and who I am today is two different people, because I'm able to learn from all of that and make my mind up now. Like by the time of his death, he had left because he had said there was no hope for America. But at first, he said we had to go to the military. He said we had to vote. He said we had to do all these things to become citizens. But at the end of his life, he said, man, none of that shit is going to work. We got to throw away this whole shit This whole shit is trash.
Mhm.
And he died like in the 60s. We in 2022.
No, he died at like 98 or
No, I'm
100.
talking about like in the 60s. I'll tell you, he died like
In the 60s.
I
Oh,
think
okay.
60s
Yes,
over here.
yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah, but it's 2022.
Mhm.
And we're still saying the same ideas he had in 1895. We're
Mhm.
still practicing them today.
Mhm.
We're still thinking if we go to the military, that's going to make us a citizen. If we vote, that's going to make us a citizen. And at the end of his life, he was saying, no, that's not what. He even apologized for his feud with Marcus Garvey.
With Marcus Garvey, yep.
Because
Yes, he did.
after a while, you learn this is not my enemy. These are
Mhm.
not my enemy. This is who my real enemy is. I mean, but it's like they don't bring that up, because when you bring that up, like you muddy the waters. I mean, you want to say you want to push a Booker T. Washington because Booker T. worked for the institution. Booker T. was an institutionalist. He was a company man. So you want to say that guy. You don't want to bring up no Malcolm X, really. You don't want to bring up Fanon, because if people read Ratchet of the Earth, man, they will turn their backs from the Democrats. If all the Democrats, the black Democrats right now that are running around here following Pelosi and all these racist white people, if they read Wretched of the Earth, they would never vote a day in their life. But most of these people don't read these books. They don't read George Jackson. They don't study. They don't read Diop. They don't read John Henry Clark. They don't study that because they don't give you that in their institutions of white supremacy. You don't get these books.
And let me say, it's even, there's so much I want to respond to in that. One, it's hard to get those books because a lot of those books are out of print. And in the age of the digital, these books are going for $1,000 a pop, right? So, I mean, that's one of the things. So now what a lot of the younger folk have are YouTube videos of people reading what they said or regurgitating a little bit, which is so problematic to me. But you also brought up something about Du Bois and in his years of reflection and him apologizing. He also expressed, he just basically expressed, like, I could have handled these public spats better, period. Not, but the one that was real bad was with Marcus Garvey. But he also said in his reflection, this is along the lines of what you were talking about, was like, look, I did what I felt was with the best intention. I realize now in my elderhood, I made a lot of mistakes, but I was doing it because I was doing this for the people, right? And that, you know what I'm saying? And I appreciate that.
What he thought was for the people.
Yeah, what he thought.
You gotta remember where he grew up, the institutions that he grew up in. Right. Yo, this boy went to Germany for school. In 18-some, he went to Germany. So he's thinking like being like a German. Like when you see him in the picture, you see him with his hat on, with the glove on and the cane, because that's what Germans did. As he got older, like you're saying, his whole idea of understanding of who he is, what it is to be black, transformed. Right. I mean, it's deep, man. It's deep.
But my point, but in addition to that, my point is that we often look at our quote unquote leaders or our thinkers as these, infallible, or these people who without mistakes. That's part of, I would say, the Jesus Christ complex that we have is that we don't critique them for one, just being human. So, this is one of the, I think, the booby traps that we have on these celebrations with MLK or Malcolm X and everything, the human aspect of it. And so when we find out things like, MLK ran through chicks like glasses of Gatorade on a hot day of basketball, you know what I'm saying, was a chain smoker and a potty mouth. You know what I mean? Like some people, it shakes people up. So, you know what I'm saying? So much, you know what I'm saying? But
like, when you say that, the thing, just now that you said that, Malcolm came to mind, because Malcolm was giving the message to the grassroots. And Malcolm said, I was in jail. And he was like, don't act shocked that I was in jail. Most of your moms are still in jail. I mean, like, I'm not ashamed that I went to prison. I mean, it's like, but people think like you can't have these contradictions. or this issues, man, people are human beings. Yo, I'm gonna tell you now, ain't nothing out there that you could have done that I haven't done already. I am just as bad as anybody out there. I mean, it is just at a point I decided like my purpose is higher than what I'm doing. And I decided to change how I move and how I behave through the world. But man, look, I'm no better than anybody. And like, and people need to understand that. And there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. We're having problems in your life. There's nothing wrong with that. We are all human and we all grow.
I like that. I think we're going to end this segment on that understanding that, we all are evolving and we are human beings. And I've grown because I used to be one of those people like, man, MLK, man, was a sellout. It was all about Malcolm X, right? So, but, today I lift up, his spirit. I mean, people wouldn't do nothing for people if it cost them $20, let alone their lives. So, that's one of the things we must acknowledge, because when JFK was assassinated, there's this, I think he went to Ralph Abernathy, but he said, if they do that to their own, what do you think they're going to do to me? So people like him, Malcolm X, knew that their time on this earth was going to be short, but it was definitely well lived. What are your last thoughts on this conversation, brother?
On MLK?
Yeah, MLK and what we've been talking about. Yeah.
Now, if it wasn't for people like MLK, there wouldn't be no me. Because my awakening came from understanding him, from reading his words, reading the legacy that he left behind, and understanding who the real enemy was. If he didn't say that, if people like him didn't say that, because I said I'm a sociologist, I study, I read, I need the information, I need the data for me to be able to look at it and then make my decision. All of us, we owe a debt of gratitude to people like that. Because not only did he sacrifice money, so sacrifice income. Because like I told you, people don't know because it's been so long. But he wasn't rich. Everybody turned their back on him. They wasn't supporting him. He fought for people despite everything. And that's love. At the end of the day, when you're able to do for others, without expecting nothing back, that's true love. People think love is somebody that got money that give you this, that give you that. It's people that make sacrifices with themselves, with their lives on a daily basis to make sure you're good. Despite of themselves, that's true love. So I don't want to hear none of these goofy people talking. They could say what they want to say, but I know how much love that man had. And like you, I was Malcolm. He talking all this, turn the other cheek. Man, it was his strategy. He used strategy to a certain point when he saw like it wasn't working. He had to critique it, go back to the lab and change it. That's growth. And I respect him, man. But I'm a Capricorn too. You feel me?
Either happy birthday or happy
the 12th. The 12th was my birthday.
Oh, Capricorns are hard workers. Y'all the pillars of the zodiac, as they say.
we Capricorns out here, yo. But all power to the brother. All power to the brother.
That's Ashe. Thank you so much, Brother Afrika, and us talking about MLK.
If you wanna see good news, you don't see on regular TV. From another perspective, something relative to your needs. And we gonna have deep subjects, and we gonna turn the lens. And there's no topic we won't skip. So please don't miss weekly. Tune in weekly to check in. Weekly check in. Weekly check in. Tune in.